Action.
Hello, my name is Pierre Price, and I'm an artist, a Techspressionist artist out of Phoenix, Arizona. And I want to welcome you today. Today is February the 5th, 2026, and this is Techspressionism Salon number 103. Before we get started on our topic today, though, we have a special salon coming up in April, and I want to introduce Erin Coe to talk a little bit about that upcoming salon. Erin.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. I am the curator for new media for the Every Woman Biennial this year, which is an amazing show that happens every other year in New York City. It's a fantastic salon for hundreds of artists. We believe that joy is our greatest act of subversion, so it is an energetic, punk rock carnival-esque moment we're creating. It opens March 7th and 8th and runs through April 11th. Please come through if you can. And because several Techspressionist artists are showing work in this exhibition, we'll be broadcasting the April Salon from the gallery. If anybody who's already got a piece in the show in Techspressionist group wants to participate, please reach out to me. And then we'll probably be inviting other artists who are not necessarily affiliated with Techspressionism, but are new media creative technologists who have work in the show to talk about their work as well. So please join us for that salon, either as a participant or as an audience member. And yeah, hope to see you.
That sounds awesome.
Come in person if you can. Come on the 8th. The 8th is going to be huge, and the 11th is going to be huge. We're going to have everything, every medium.
That's great, Erin. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
always cool to have a live show like that. So I think that's going to be a really fun salon to look forward to. So thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so today's topic is reimagining the artist with a specialization in generative AI. And this topic had been suggested at last month's after party by Verneda Lights, and she's going to be presenting first. And I'm going to read just a little bit of her bio because it's pretty impressive. Renata Lights is a polymath artist, writer, and retired physician whose practice resides at the intersection of art, technology, and cultural memory. A graduate of Bryn Mawr College, she earned her MD from the University of Pennsylvania Perelman School of Medicine and later completed an MBA at Strayer University. Expanding her interdisciplinary reach into emerging technologies, she holds certification in generative AI from the Johns Hopkins University Whiting School of Engineering. A cultural griot of the Gullah Geechee Nation, Verneda grounds her artistic practice in the preservation of ancestral memory, oral history, and diasporic identity. Identifying as a Techspressionist, she engages artificial intelligence as a collaborator in multimodal reasoning, integrating text, image synthesis, narrative world building, and digital painting to explore identity, spirituality, and speculative futures. Her AI-driven projects have received international validation. She was twice selected to present at the Yale Ultraspace Symposium 2023-2024, where her acclaimed AI narrative project, Caterpillar Dreams, a speculative meditation on transformation and consciousness, was later published in the Yale Ultraspace printed volume. Her AI artworks were also featured in Merely Random, a 6-month immersive exhibition at Art in Space Gallery. Welcome, Verneda. I look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here today with this esteemed group of artists that I have traveled with over the last couple of years through the pandemic and watched us all evolve. And one of those steps in the evolution of my work as an artist involved the use of artificial intelligence. I was initially very disappointed in what I saw for AI because I early on ran into many biases that were obvious in the creation of culturally relevant imagery. So I decided that the best way to engage with this hurdle would be to train the models to understand images, both various and hard to explain, and to train the models to exhibit a type of intelligence that is sensitive to culturally relevant moments. So I'm going to start off by giving a discussion of what AI is and an overview for those of you who are not heavily engaged in AI. It took a lot of thinking uh, because, coming fresh out of that Johns Hopkins experience, that there's a lot of technical AI code stuff that's still jangling around in my consciousness, for better, for worse. And having built AI, I now have a portfolio of agentic AI that I have created. And so I'm trying to re-emerge from that sort of deep water experience into the creative space that we inhabit at this point in time. So I'm going to read some stuff. It may be a little bit boring, and I apologize for that. And if you do not understand something, you need me to stop and explain something, put a note in the chat or raise your hands, and I'll try not to go too long, okay? And after that, I'll give a discussion of my artwork and how AI has impacted it. So let's start here. Let's get this together. Redefining the artist AI. In considering the topic of today's discussion, I concluded that perhaps the title for this salon should be Redefining the Approach to Artistry AI, rather than Defining the Artist AI. Because what an artist is has likely been unchanged since paintings were blown, etched, and painted onto the walls of the Lascaux caves 6,000 to 21,000 years ago. The journey from Lascaux to generative AI to what it is that I do is vast, but I believe unchanged with respect to what an artist is. I say that because in thinking about it, I believe that the function of the artist throughout time has been basically the same. So, what accounts for the differences in what we see between then and now? What has changed is how the artist creates. It is the instruments of creativity that have created the differences in the visual landscape of human artistry. In examining how AI has redefined this trajectory, we have to first define what an artist is. We then have to embrace at least a minimalist definition of what AI is. Then we'll take a look at how AI has impacted the artistic process in general. And finally, I will examine my own artistic process as a Techspressionist, as has been impacted by AI. So, how then will we define an artist? What is that baseline definition? To me, an artist is a class, artistry is a class of creatives. Artists are the spin doctors of reality. They keep the vast communication configurations of the evolution of human life as reflected through events, shared and diverse cultures and aesthetics. Artists are the dictionaries and keepers of the visual and written vocabularies that tell the stories about how we and our ancestors perceive and interact with the world around us. In terms of AI, there are a few definitions we need to look at. And I've narrowed it down to 2 to 3 basic definitions. The first is machine learning. What is that? Machine learning is a way of programming computers so that they learn from data instead of being given step-by-step rules. You give the system many examples, and it finds patterns on its own, so it can make predictions or decisions like guessing which emails are spam. Artificial intelligence, or AI. Well, the term artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy, a computer scientist, in 1956, so it's been around for quite a while. Artificial intelligence is when a computer system can do things that usually need human intelligence, like understanding language, recognizing pictures, or making decisions. It follows rules or learned patterns so that it can solve problems, play games, drive cars, and more. Regarding generative AI, I will define it like this. Generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that can create new things such as text, images, music, or code that look like they were made by humans. It learns from huge amounts of data, then uses what it has learned to produce new content, like writing an essay or drawing a picture from a prompt. The phrase generative AI became common in the 2010s and 2020s as models like GANs, or GANS, which stands for General Adversarial Networks, were introduced by Ian Goodfellow and his colleagues in 2014, and also Transformers, introduced in 2017. The Transformers made it possible to generate very realistic content. Now, how does generative AI differ from AI? Is it different? Well, artificial intelligence, or AI, is the big overall field that encompasses any computer system that can perform tasks that require human intelligence. Generative AI is one kind of AI that focuses on creating new content. That's the key concept. Generative AI creates words, images, sounds, etc., not just exhibiting recognition or predicting, but taking that information and then generating new things. So all generative AI is artificial intelligence, but not all artificial intelligence is generative AI. For example, a spam filter or a chess engine is AI, but it is not generative AI because it does not create new content. It mainly classifies or chooses among options. And in a nod today, this being Black History Month, I want to acknowledge the fact that we have AI because of the foundational work done by a Black mathematical genius named David Blackwell, who was born in 1919 and passed away in 2010. So this work very much precedes all of us here, but also extends into our lifetimes, not too far back. And David Blackwell is called the father of AI because his math ideas created the rules that modern AI still follows, even though he worked long before today's computers and robots. He studied how to make the best decisions when you do not know everything, using probability and statistics to show how to choose actions that work well on average, which is exactly what AI systems try to do when they learn from data. Now, AI creates images in 2 phases. First, there's the learning phase, where the AI is shown millions of images with short text descriptions. Then the AI analyzes what has been fed and it learns patterns, like what cat, sunset, or in the style of Van Gogh, what it looks like. AI does not save whole pictures. It learns rules and patterns for how things tend to look. So that's an important consideration when people become very afraid of their particular work being used in AI. Now, after the learning phase, the AI goes through a creative phase where it responds to prompts. So when you type a prompt like a blue cat on the moon, the AI first starts with random static, like the snow that you see on TV. Then step by step, it changes that noise, guessing what shapes and colors match your words. Each step makes the image less noisy and more clear until it looks like a finished picture that fits your prompt. This process is often done with a special kind of model called a diffusion model, which is now the main method used in modern image generators. Now, some of the best-known AI image generators that you may have encountered are DALL-E, that was created by OpenAI, Midjourney, made by the independent Midjourney Research Lab, Stable Diffusion, which is an open source model released by Stability AI and its collaborators. There's Adobe Firefly, built into Adobe tools like Photoshop and Illustrator. There's Imagen, developed inside Google, mainly shown in Google products, not as a public standalone app. And there's also AI included in major platforms such as Facebook, which allows you to experience what multimodal reasoning is by applying its AI in the creation of Facebook posts, wherein you can use images and also sound. Now, we ask a question, has generative AI actually redefined what an artist is? I thought about this and I've decided no, it has not actually redefined what an artist is. Generative AI has not given a single new agreed on definition of artist, but it has strongly challenged and stretched how people think about what an artist is and does. So how is it changing the idea of artists? Well, now some people see an artist as the person who designs, curates, or directs the AI system, choosing data, writing prompts, and selecting outputs, not just making every pixel by hand. AI studies and interviews with artists show a mix of fear and excitement. They love it or hate it. Some feel threatened by the concept that AI makes art less authentic, whereas others, like Sasha Stiles, treat AI as a creative partner or tool. Public debates and research point out that questions of originality, ownership, and intent are now central to deciding who counts as the artist when AI is involved. So what has not changed? What has not changed is that galleries, competitions, and critics still usually care about human intention, context, and meaning, not just the image or text itself, which gives and keeps the human artist role important. Some galleries and competitions even forbid any use of AI at any point in the artistic process. Many scholars and artists argue that AI is more like a powerful new medium, like photography once was, or more like that than a full replacement for human artists, even if it does blur the lines. So I think personally that AI empowers artists to prioritize the pathways of discovery It is an agent of change that helps the artist shape the trajectory of their work from sensory experience to collection creation, marketing, and revenue generation. It is an extension of the artist's mind, memory, and hands. It brings the environment into close proximity to the artist. By reducing the space required to save paint, brushes, and canvases, digitization of art has made more room for living. Recently, Philadelphia-based artist Michael Elam said something that really struck me as being key to understanding why we're here today. He said that evolution happens with experimentation, exploring possibilities. So this is an important concept when considering how AI has impacted modern artists. The power of AI is that it facilitates artistic experimentation in general and catalyzes the discovery of individual artistic styles. Regarding my own personal use of AI, I see AI as a collaborative tool. I see it as an extension of my mind, my memory, and my hands. I see it as a depository of human aesthetics. It is the same attitude that I've had since I first started to draw by hand using digital instruments like Paint, PaintShop Pro, and Photoshop back in 2000. I see digital instruments and AI as being multi-purpose instruments that help me to actualize my artistic visions. AI also provides me with the analytical instruments that help me probe my artistic growth in real time rather than retrospectively. I see digital instruments, AI inclusive, as being potentially an equalizing force capable of making art accessible to those who are economically disadvantaged or physically disabled. Artificial intelligence does not reduce the works and the pressure of creating artwork that exists to the artistic process. AI instruments require a great deal of attention because it has many biases and can often miss the mark when rendering things that require accuracy, such as human anatomy. Using AI to create fine art requires multimodal reasoning, that is, the ability to maintain continuity of artistic intent across multiple platforms, which involve text plus image plus sound plus motion. As an artist that collaborates with AI, I see the prompts that I write as being an underpainting, without which the finished product cannot be made. The AI responds to the general intent and specifics of my prompt, my syntax, and linguistic idiosyncrasies, as well as my history of interactions. From the noise presented to it, it assembles and clarifies its response to my prompt based on what I have written and what it knows about the arts, history of humanity, and me. So now that we've gone through that, I'm going to share some examples of how AI is relevant to me as a Techspressionist. And Techspressionism is defined. You see this mentioned on the website techspressionism.com, that Techspressionism is an artistic approach in which technology is utilized as a means to express emotional experience. So when we think of AI, we would tend, with our own biases, to project that it is cold and it does not have the capability or has limited capability to deal with human emotions or to convey human emotions. So throughout my use of AI, I have probed those limits. As a physician, I'm very familiar with the landscape of the human soul. So I took AI basically on a journey that explored those realms of human feeling and communication to see whether or not it is capable of making the point visible. So I'm going to share my screen, and you guys, bear with me. And here we are. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of my discussion that um, we have our point of reference or origin for artistry in the caves of Lascaux. And here we have an example. We have a photograph of a group that are witnessing that incredible display. And I want you to make note of the configuration, how we have the semicircular ceiling and later the walls of the cave that the cave people, cave artists, Paleolithic artists decided to use in their presentation of daily life through the arts. And here we have another image. And here we have the immersive exhibit of my Techspressionist artwork, Black Dandies, at the Art and Space Gallery in Dubai. And you see basically here the same configuration, which I thought was striking. The semicircular presentation and the ceiling involvement, etc. And these are more images. And here we have another mode in which I use AI to envision a poem that I wrote. And you tell me whether or not the poem was captured. The poem is entitled Virulent Partisan Politics. Volcanic vomit of lies spew forth in virulent partisan politics. Indecent dissent, souls dent in virulent partisan politics. Convent of gents in indecent consent. Prayers spun in Lent do not repent in virulent partisan politics. Deny assent, refuse consent. To what extent are wills unbent in virulent partisan politics? Malcontent spewing bilious content defy advent. Spiraling rents are indecent presence from virulent partisan politics. So we have the dark realm basically being captured by the AI in a hellscape of sorts. But the experiment in which I tried to have the AI incorporate the poem into the image failed because it only picked up some of the words and then sort of ad-libbed or hallucinated its own version that I do not understand. I'll have a linguist take a look at it to tell me whether or not they are indeed words at all. And here's another rendering that it did of the virulent partisan politics discussion. And here I decided to take a look at, could the AI help me capture despair? And here we have an elderly gentleman. This is a meditation on how older people are discarded in this culture. This is Envy from a series of artworks, the collaborations that I did on the 7 deadly sins. This is Grief. This is Mercy. This is surrender in a baptism scene. This is a dream. This is Martin Luther King as I envision him. If he were still alive, he would be 97 years old. And here he is surrounded by the luminaries of our time. This image speaks for itself. And I'll just be quiet for the next images. So let me know if you think they captured the moment. And that's it.
Oh, Verneda, wonderful presentation. And seeing the artwork is just fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. My honor.
Oh, okay. So, moving along to our next presenter, uh, Renata Janiszewska. Renata, up to you now.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. And I want to say thanks to Michael and Verneda for putting together this salon. I'm just going to share my screen. So today I'm going to be talking about launching movement in Midjourney Lab. I started working with Midjourney back in July of 2022 when it was in V2. And here's an example of a prompt I gave it. Back then, Midjourney only allowed me to make images with word prompts. And I had a series going about cakes, palaces, and castles made of cake. And I would throw some artist names in there. And I basically was just trying to see what it would give me stylistically. And so there's the example that came from the prompt. That was back in July of 2022. And 2 days ago, I put the identical prompt into Midjourney, and that was the result. Not only can Midjourney give me more elaborate renderings, but it can make things move. I always make my images starting with, I make them with images rather than with language. I find that I enjoy the process of marrying 2 or 3 disparate images together. And I also found that when it started to make my images move, it did it in a number of different ways. So I'm going to show you the first example is a collage. So this head here was made 2 years ago in Midjourney, and the hat and the plants were collaged onto it later, recently. And then I put some stickers onto the collage. So these were made in Instagram stories, but you can also make stickers on your iOS devices. And now I'm going to show you what happens when it it has movement. And notice that the main character moves, but these three characters here also move in different ways. So see if you can catch the different ways they move.
Et j'apprends à ne plus fuir.
So besides taking characters, it can also animate still images that are abstract. And in this particular sequence, I'm going to show you a short video that was made with 4 different paintings, abstract paintings of mine. But I also want to point out that there's, in the opening sequence, some of the abstract shapes, particularly this backward C and this tangle of lines, they become anthropomorphized, which is something that the AI does. And usually I don't really find it very helpful. It will make butterflies and parts of people where I don't really want them. But in this case, it made this little man who you'll see in the first opening seconds of the video. And I also want to mention that all the music that you're going to hear in my presentation was made with Suno AI. And the reason I like working with Suno rather than GarageBand, which is how I used to make all my music, is that I can write the words, give them to the AI, give it a prompt, and continue from there. And it also will translate my words into different languages. So you can hear in this presentation, you'll hear different languages being sung.
Sa langue sort folle et vulgaire et danse en l'air comme un éclair. Oh, oh, oh.
So what I'm really pleased about is that Midjourney has started to be able to copy my own particular abstract paintings. Shapes, colors are actually very true to the originals. And the way it comes out is it gives you four different times. So the first iteration will be 5 seconds. You can go to 9 from that same first iteration. You can go to 16, and 20 is the max. And I usually work with 5 to 9 second clips because I like to take the best part of each one and edit them into my video. Also, I want you to notice how the metallics in this painting, the gold up here, they really do look metallic in the video. So from abstract, I'm going to take you into some of the characters that I've created. And character creation has been going on for about 2 years. You'll see a variety of types. Mostly these are chic Venetians. They're either from the past and they're in period costume, or they're from the present. And for those of you who like fashion, one of my favorite designers is Alexander McQueen. So you might see a little bit of his influence.
Every bay and broken headland, cliffs that cradle, cliffs that stand, zigzag heart, he knows the land. Melt to rock with a leaning hand. 5 nights unobserved, he roamed through the gap to the western.
Here's another set.
Suelter pensó en fly sin cesar. La muerte quiso disfrazar. Su paso pulió con fervor. Sin ruido vivo solo su pavot.
And finally,
Scruter les arbres, le front resserré, leurs couleurs s'embrasant dans l'automne doré. Elle garnissait ses poches, frissons et lueurs de feuilles d'or, de fougères en langue de
so from those characters, we go to abstraction plus characters. So what this next video will show you is how the AI marries characters that it actually made up with abstract paintings that I've done. And the lines from my paintings and the colors are the most recognizable aspects of what it has made. In this case, just watch out. I wanted to point out that the dimensionality is really good. So this jacket, take a look at that when you're watching the video and see what happens. And also my custom brushes become three-dimensional with characters layered in between them. So the brushes are in the front and in the back. It's called Titus 8, and it's part of my series called House of Grown.
his motions corner time, make on his way. Each pivot like a crowbar. The rafters held the breath and hands withdrew. His footsteps take like friends in a dry clock. Geometry of madness split in two and stitched step by step of shot to shot.
And the last work I'm going to show you is fairly recent, and it comes out of, there's a breakthrough in a way that I had where I did an installation work in South Korea in Gwangju at GMAP Museum, and it was in a black box space, and all three walls had video playing on them from floor to ceiling, and the sound came up from the floor. And with the installation shots the museum sent me, I decided to feed them into Midjourney, and I got this sort of thing. Now, this was the result of more than just one image. It was this image plus a few others. And here's another iteration. And what I liked here was I got a space. I got an actual space, like a theatrical space that I could use to make my characters come alive. And there's a ceiling here and a floor there, as you can see. Just showing you a little bit of the process. So the prompt was she comes out from the wall, and this one in the bottom left is the one I liked. So I upscaled it, which Midjourney allows you to do. So that's always a good thing to do before you make a video out of a still. And then I decided to put it into my painting software called Adobe Fresco, which is an app that I use to make paintings with. It's free, by the way. I recommend you try it. And it allows you to make custom brushes as well. But in this case, what I did was I put the still image in, and then I put another still image in of my two twins here, and I made it integrated with the mise en scène. And then I animated it, and this is what it gave me. So that was the 5-second version, and here's a slightly longer clip.
Et vivez qu'on n'est pas presque abandonné. Exalté, s'animer dans la c'est tout.
And this is a piece of writing about the work that you're going to see next, and some of my other works. It's written by E. Herbert, an art historian. So this really is a haunted set and a haunted work, and ghosts are definitely part of it. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for your attention today.
Whoa. Mm. Mm. Beneath a beaming umber swathed strip, beating moons fell we fell in bed. The light bent low, the kisses we don't need, and fed and shivered in a water breeze. This passage map itself in silver blind. A canyon where relation can return. From daughter backs and I breathe the fear. The spider sticks the first sunshine of day. We hold it by the broken crater blue, and arms reach Cleveland when now resume. To close with this is not an epic sweet.
Wow, Renata, that's spectacular. Yeah, wow. I'm hoping we'll have time for questions for everybody who's presenting today, because I think there's a lot to discuss and go over. So thanks, Renata. Next up, Colin Goldberg. Hey, Colin, welcome.
Hey, what's up, Michael? Thank you for taking the moderation role, and thanks for Verneda for that great introduction to the topic. Renata, I really enjoyed checking out that work too. Um, so yeah, AI is something that I started experimenting with, I guess, with text as far as generating text. It might have been, I don't know, 2021 or something like that when ChatGPT first came out. I started asking it to write haikus for me. And then I was posting like an image out of my archive, one of my old art images. And I would try to give it a prompt that related to the image and then post the image with the AI. And I started tagging them with the hashtag daily AI haiku. And that, I went on with that for a while until I kind of, that was spent, that idea. But then, I guess I resumed using it when I started playing around with Midjourney. Um, and I've been using AI to create the graphics for all of our salons, the sort of promo graphics. I'm just going to share my screen here and kind of jump into some of this stuff I want to share. So, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I scrolled back. If you go to our salon page, which is just techspressionism.com/salon, you can see we're on number 103. And I scrolled all the way down to 51, which is 2022. I think that's our first salon that was dedicated to the topic of AI. And right around that time is when I started actually using AI. These might have been collages from some stock photography, but this one I believe was a mid-journey generated image. And then pretty much since then, all of the images have been, done in collaboration with some sort of AI. And, that's something where I see it more as illustration than art, than my art anyway. It serves a particular purpose, and all the typography was done manually. But in creating these graphics, some of them are not AI. Like this is a installation shot from the exhibition in Chelsea. that Tommy Mintz curated a while back. So not everything is AI, but a lot of the images, the majority of them, I used AI. So that was a way, and this one here too, for this particular salon, was generated in Midjourney, this image. And usually it takes a couple rounds of prompting, and sometimes I'll manipulate it a little bit afterwards. So fast forward to um, like when, I don't know, last year or so, I picked up and started playing around with Sora, which is OpenAI's text to video prompting tool. And this was the first one that I did just for the fun of it. I asked Sora to come up with something. Basically, the prompt was Andy Warhol talking about Techspressionism. So let me see if I can.
Just channeled through
I
the
like
circuitry.
That. It's like the factory, but in the
You don't
cloud.
hide the machine, you let it. What we're doing with Techspressionism is treating code like pigment, brushstrokes made of data. It's still about emotion, just channeled through the
like
circuitry.
That. It's like the factory, but in the
You don't
cloud.
hide the machine, you let it. What we're doing with Techspressionism is treating code like.
So basically, and I did ask it also to put it in the Guggenheim, and I kind of liked how it made the Guggenheim have this sort of digital display wrapped around the rotunda. And that was just something that, Sora came up with. And I think it's interesting too, experimenting with Sora, that, you can at this point have it generate um, video with people who are deceased, but not with people who are alive. So you could say Bruce Lee, for instance, which I made videos with me and him in it, or pretty much anybody that I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a conversation with this person? So anyway, but if you say, I don't know, our president, for example, or some other person, the platform will not let you do that. There's an artist, part of the group, Système, who's a French artist who has figured out a way to incorporate living people, and his work is quite political and pretty humorous, using AI tools. So, again, that usage of the software really was not something I consider my art. It was really kind of like playing, with the tool, see, oh, I wonder what I can do with this. And then in the last couple of months, I sort of had an aha moment where I did actually find a way that I could incorporate AI into my own work, which I consider myself primarily to be a painter. So you could see this piece on the screen here, is a painting called Invictus. So the way that I work is I paint on linen and then basically print on top of it. I bring the image of the painting into the computer, do a digital drawing that is superimposed upon that layer, and then actually run the painted surface through my printer, which is an old Epson 9800. And then rinse and repeat, do multiple runs of that. So this is actually this body of work, the overpainted work, or overprinted work rather, is really where I kind of came up with this. That's what originated this idea, this term Techspressionism for me initially, was the combination of gestural painting and digital overprinting. So, this is the starting point for what I'm going to show you. And that's a piece from a series of mine called Wireframes. And I have a bunch of different work on my website from this series, paintings, works on paper, etc. I'll just show you some of the paintings. So these are various paintings, going kind of like in chronological order, this being the most recent and going back. And some of these are quite large. Like this is the finished piece of the one that was in the video of me running through my printer, and that gives you a sense of the scale. It's a 3x4 foot piece. Some of them are larger. Let's see. Yeah, this one is probably the largest, 36 by 64. And it's actually, I created these ones, this painting and a lot of them in particular, to correspond with HD dimensions. So it's 16:9 aspect ratio. And that was a conscious sort of choice. Also rotated 90 degrees vertically, same proportions. So anyway, I started playing around with this idea of feeding the actual images of the hand painted work into Sora with a variety of different prompts. Um, and well, I'm skipping ahead here. So after I started doing this overprinting, which I first ran a painted service through my printer back in 2005, I started experimenting with augmented reality and AR. So the first body of work that I incorporated AR into were these digital drawings called metagraphs. And you could see as you're looking at it through an app, it'll animate. And these are digital drawings. So at some point, I started exhibiting these at a gallery, and some of the people coming through said, "Hey, can you animate your paintings?" And I said, "Well, no, like there's really no way that I can go in and make the brush strokes move and make the different layers move." Well, I was wrong actually. So I tried it. I tried running my images of my paintings through Sora, and I sort of had, like Renata said, an aha moment where I thought, this is it. This is how I can actually use AI in my work in a way that feels authentic. So I'm going to show you a little video now. It's about 4 minutes in total of this body of work that I'm calling motion paintings. And these are basically the paintings brought to life through generative AI. So it'll be that same body of work. And let me just make sure the volume is on here. Okay. So that's it.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Amazing.
Colin. Yeah.
Amazing.
The music was also made with Suno, by the way, which
Oh,
I did this
cool.
morning. I didn't know I was going to be presenting until you reached out to me yesterday. So I was like, well, I got to put something together. But I did have the video prepared. I used it for a residency proposal. So I kind of
Yeah.
forgot I had that. But
Awesome.
yeah, that's it.
It's really cool to see that progression from earlier work to transformative with metagraphs and then now animating. It's really, really interesting. I
Yeah,
think
the
it kind of,
animations are powerful.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Simplicity
Thanks,
of the
Colin.
black and white, Colin.
That
Mhm.
was cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Okay, we have one more presenter, Sahar Moussavi, and it looks like, I guess, Renata, you're going to be
Yes.
presenting on her behalf.
Yep. Sahar is unable to be with us today, but she sent her presentation via Google Docs. And do you see it on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is from Sahar Moussavi. Sahar is one of our members that lives in Iran. And we have her beautiful artwork here. She's been creating art for a long time, and she experiments also with converting her or collaborating with the AI to expand upon the work that she created earlier in her life. So here she states, in this art series, I leveraged Viscom AI, an AI engine tailored for product designers, to transform my hand-drawn sketches into various rendered images. Utilizing my original artwork as style references, the AI engine generated new interpretations, frequently in the form of 3D renders. So here we go. Here we have the original image, and we see the various ways in which the AI picks up on the colors and the shapes and interprets. And here, again, the original image. And on expanding on the color and the form. A very intricate pen image here. And lastly, here. Here she has the 3D object interpretation. I think Sahar does a wonderful job by hand. So that's the end of the presentation. It's very, very brief and powerful. I'll stop share now. Thank you.
Well, thanks for presenting that on her behalf, Renata. I mean, one of the things I found really fascinating about Sahar's work is the work that she does in 3D and creating those 3D environments. And if anybody is unfamiliar with her work, I would definitely suggest checking it out. She does some really fascinating things with 3D worlds.
Yes, she does.
Okay, well, we do have time for some Q&A here, which is really lovely because oftentimes we don't get that chance. So if anybody wants to raise their hand or use the raise hand tool, let's get some discussion going. Lee Day.
I had a question for Colin about, it seemed like to me like there was almost two types of animations within those, within the videos. Like the first part sort of seemed a bit flatter, and then the second part seemed to be much more 3D. Did you use different tools, or were they just different generations, or what? Or what?
Well, it's interesting because I use the same tool for everything, but I did use different prompts for each one of the pieces. Usually, like I did a whole bunch of different prompts and just sort of curated the ones that I liked the best and edited them into a 23-second sequence. Surprise. 23 is my number, but what I did see was that certain pieces were understood by the AI as far as the way that they are put together in layers better than others. So that's something that I'm actually exploring now in making the paintings, where, say, I layer a wireframe form on top of gestural marks. It's going to understand that better than if I put the gestural marks over a wireframe, say, or if there's hard edge painting, it's going to be able to differentiate something like a sphere that's a hard edge element better than, say, just, it's interesting. The second set works on paper, and that first one actually was from 2005. So this is a piece that's over 20 years old. And it really was able to pull that apart in a pretty remarkable way. Every time it did something that was really effective, I was just, flabbergasted. I was like, how could it actually pull these brushstrokes apart and sort of move them independently? And a lot of that is really where I see it being um, a collaborative project with the AI, in that, like, I'm not instructing it to do very specific things. Some of the initial prompts were as simple as flying through Techspressionist space. That was actually the first prompt that I used in the first painting that I fed through it. And it understood. It did something that I kept actually with that prompt, which that was sort of when the light bulb went off. I was like, wow, it actually understood what I wanted it to do, and it did something that I would have envisioned I would be instructing it to do. It just kind of like did it.
Uh,
So yeah, I mean, there was the same tool though. Sora is what I used for everything.
may I comment? Also, Colin, the AI, as I mentioned in my talk, the AI is trained to recognize patterns, and it has very sophisticated concept of patterns because it's been fed on the patterns of the world. So what it did was, in encountering your work, it analyzed patterns that it recognized and then arranged the presentation and the movement of that presentation of the patterns that it perceived um, in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. So that is what AI does. It doesn't save, hold pictures or entire images. It is trained to recognize patterns. And we have a lot of uh, patterns that we generate in our individual artworks. And you certainly have them in your multiple layers of artistic renderings. I imagine there could be 4 or 5 different layers of things going on. So within those 4 or 5 different layers, there are probably, you know, X to the 10th power or whatever amount of patterns that the AI can analyze, and we do not understand its history of pattern perception. We don't have all that in our heads. So it's going to surprise us by showing us the breadth of what it recognizes in the work that we do. I think that's one of the main values of AI is its ability to recognize pattern. It'll learn, and as you present more and more work, it will begin to find patterns within the patterns that you have in your artwork. I mean, your pieces are very moving, and the syncopation was just incredible. I appreciate it very much.
It's interesting that, like, I know with Midjourney, you can use, I forget what they call it, but like you could do style, you could basically feed it a whole bunch of stuff and it'll use that to generate new work in a particular style. I
Mhm.
don't think Sora actually has that yet as a piece of functionality, but I'm hoping they incorporate that because I think it'll be interesting. But I did think that to me, like it was the most interesting was how it could actually pull apart physical brushstrokes that I made with
Mm-hmm.
my hand. Like when I
Right.
see it moving hard edge elements around, it's like, okay, that's kind of like what I was doing manually in Adobe Animate, just like moving these things around. But for it to actually move individual brush strokes around and like, and drips and other stuff like that, that just blew my mind. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
All
As
right, we
a
have oh, sorry.
as a user of Midjourney, I know Michael uses Midjourney heavily. And one thing I like about what they've done lately is they let you make a mood board. So you can make a mood board of 8 images and then plug that into where your prompt would be, and it will influence the look of what comes out. It's very imprecise, but I actually enjoy the imprecision and the mistakes and whatever you want to call it, the idiosyncrasies of AI right now are really good for artists. Maybe not so much for people who want pristine realism, but that's not the goal. So I'm kind of hoping it takes a long time to evolve into perfection, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a couple raised hands. Cheryl.
Hi, I'm like overwhelmed here. I'm so far behind. I started in 1983 with kind of crazy art with a computer, like the little one mini computer that Apple had, and there was just a keyboard there, and we could print from the other room and whatever. And I made a piece that I don't know if I've shown you guys, but consistent of all you could use was copy paper, and I put together like 12 pieces of copy paper, and there was my work. So that's in 1983, and I had so much trouble with Adobe and all that, and I'm going to have to go back and eat my words. But I guess without Photoshop, it seems to me I'd be dead. I don't know, what everybody else thinks about that, but it seems I need to have Photoshop in order to continue with all the with the art, animation and all that stuff. My screen is different. Is everybody hearing me okay?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay. I'm just so overwhelmed by the beautiful work that everybody presented today. And I just wondered if anybody wanted to hear what Chat GPT said about itself. It's kind of funny because I asked it, what is generative AI? It says generative, okay, why is this? Oh gosh. Well, never mind. This always happens to me. Something always goes wrong. Okay, never mind. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Okay, Lee.
So I was wondering whether anyone had used either Comfy AI or interfaces like Imagine Art, which basically allow you to choose your own models, which type of models, and set up your own workflows and that type of thing. It sounds like Midjourney is doing some of that, but I don't know if these are a little bit more modular maybe, or they're
Well,
a different approach.
The Night Cafe has a similar layout. You can
Uh-huh.
choose the model that you want to use, as well as the style of variations within that model.
Lee, I've played with Comfy a bunch, and if you've ever played with anything like Resolume or
Yeah.
or Jitter Max MSP Jitter, setting up nodes in Comfy is really similar to that kind of a node building, and it's really fun. I think if you dabble around in it, you'll have some good experiences.
Yeah, Imagine Art does a lot of the same things, except it's a little more expensive, and you have to, it's already built for you in many ways, but it allows you to use a lot of the same different models, and they keep on throwing in all the new ones. So it sounds like you all have found your tool and seem to be focused on it.
Well, I've worked with all of the biggies, so to speak, and tried to make as much creative use of some of the minor players, such as Meta AI. But I find that in terms of creativity and the AI getting a feel for what it is you want to convey, Midjourney pretty much captures what you want best, without really having too much of mm, not much discord in terms of what you see in their rendering versus what you've typed into your prompt. So some of the others do well, things like Night Cafe, although it offers you a variety of models, it doesn't really have the nuances that you find in Midjourney. And even ChatGPT has gotten much better. For the last two images in my presentation, where I presented what happened with Renee Good and Alex Peretti, that was done with ChatGPT. A year or two ago, I could not have gotten that cohesion, that level of cohesion from ChatGPT. It's very proficient with words, but not images, but the image capability has caught up. So I like to play around amongst the ones that I use. I have a stable of about 5 or 6 image generators that I use.
Lee, to follow up on Verneda's point, I mean, look at your work. I mean, look at the innovative way you use a camera, and most people use it for taking family photos. And so I think AI allows you to expand beyond what most people use AI these days for, which is, very photographic looking sorts of images, novelty, but it's within a pretty narrow bandwidth that a lot of the AI gets geared towards. And I think artists are the ones that push the envelope. I mean, just take a look at what was done today. I mean, most of the work you saw today, you're not going to find on the homepage of Midjourney or some of the other, AI websites, because we're sort of at the far end of the bell curve of how we're using these tools.
Yes, we are.
Especially if you go to the OpenAI one, which basically has all your Disney characters under contract.
Yeah. Colin has his hand raised, but Cynthia is also raising her hand. So I'll go to Cynthia real quickly.
Okay. I know that early on, Renata, you were trying to overcome racial biases within AI.
Yes.
So this is a question for you and also for Renata, because I noticed that Renata, in the piece she showed us, had a number of Asian characters and a couple dark-skinned people that I don't know, African American, African origin, whatever. And I hadn't seen that very much before. So this is kind of a question for both of you. Are you finding that AI is more open to more open racially in terms of portraying?
It's in keeping with AI to learn patterns. And over time, though I initially encountered market biases, AIs were just almost universally unable to consistently render a human face when you requested any type of melanated presentation. African American, African, Asian, whatever. It was just incompetent. And that incompetence was built in. It was willful. Okay. But with time, so many different people and artists, I'm quite sure, led the way, in a lot of ways in terms of creating prompts, requesting complexion variations. And the AI had to learn that pattern on top of acquiring images that were fed into it that included African Americans, Africans, Asians, etc. Also, it is some artists find that it's a smart move to vary their ethnic presentations in their artworks because the audience, the global audience, really does not respond to a Euro-facing type artistic presentation as much. It's not profitable. I mean, look at hip hop. That's pretty much the beat of the planet, even though rock and roll has been here for a while. And so I think that the AI, despite external attempts, that the billionaires and the various people with the racial biases that are contrary to melanated people, despite what they hardwired into the AI initially to not pay attention to melanin variations, the AI, because it is trained to learn patterns, had to eventually break through.
Okay. So can we hear from, that's great answer. Renata, what was your experience? Because I had not seen the racial variety in your work before. And now in what you showed today, it was there. How'd you get it in there? You're muted.
Well, when you say you hadn't seen it before, it's because you don't see all my work all the time.
Okay. Yeah,
This has
that's
been
true.
going on for ages.
Okay.
I come from an Eastern European background. That's my ethnicity. Art history plays a big part in my life. So, Northern European Renaissance, for example, is something that I'm drawn to.
Mhm.
But people of color were living in Europe a long time ago. They just weren't necessarily depicted in fine art so much because they might have not had as much money. I live in a very multicultural nation, and I'm really used to seeing all people of all colors. So that naturally finds its way into my work. It would be dishonest, I think, to not to try to be more inclusive. But it's also from an artistic point of view, it's just interesting to see different features.
So did you have to make an effort to get it in? That's really the question.
Well, I have to make an effort to get everything in.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Colin.
Yeah, I just wanted to share one thing in response to Cheryl and her comment about Photoshop. So I do sort of commercial work, design work, and production work as my day job, and I actually use AI tools in that as well in a more mundane fashion. But like the Adobe Suite has incorporated AI tools in a pretty interesting way. I just pulled this up. Like there's a feature in Photoshop called Generative Expand. So say like I have this image and I want to use it in a layout, but I want to show more of the person on the left, and I want to have the female be more central. I can go in and use the crop tool, and kind of like stretch it out a little bit, and then go into the Generative Expand layout here, or the this little bar, and it'll actually come up with something that is pretty believable. And I use this on a very regular basis when I need to take an image and take something that's a square image and create something that's 9 by 16 for a reel or something like that. So this is like a practical way. And then, sometimes it looks weird, but you can do it a number of times and have it, actually work, So I'm just showing that AI is not necessarily only a tool for you know, just coming up with things completely from scratch, but you could also use it in a way that, say you have a piece and you want to you want it to, extend it off the edges of the canvas. Something like that is it'll yield interesting results. And also a lot of the other tools in the Adobe suite, particularly Photoshop, although Illustrator is also starting to incorporate AI tools, the erase tool, the remove tool. I mean, it is absolutely remarkable. You could just sort of erase something out and it will fill the background in, and it's completely, believable. The one last thing I wanted to share is that if you guys aren't familiar with it, there's a new museum opening up in LA devoted to AI art that Rafiq Anadol founded called Dataland, and that's going to be opening up this spring. You guys should check it out if you're interested in AI art. If you Google Dataland, you'll see it. And it's not open yet, but it looks like it's going to be pretty killer. So, yeah, that's just side note.
Okay, one final question. I think then we'll wrap things up. Bob.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I just a technical question. I'm just starting using AI. I actually haven't even yet. And I was interested in building my own model totally based on my own artwork. I have a really extensive collection of black and white pencil drawings. And is there any recommendations? I hear a lot of talk about Midjourney. I was tentatively going to use Open Art AI and build my own model. Could anyone have any feedback on that? I want to get started on a good.
Well, in the world of software development, they really don't believe in reinventing the wheel. Okay. And for what you describe, you don't need to build a model to achieve those ends. You choose that which already exists in order to be eco-friendly, recyclable mentality. And then if you have the funds, because it's very expensive sometimes to build, you have the funds to explore the coding that would be involved to create an agent or another layer to a model. If you have the rights to do so, then you can do that. But I would say, since you're just starting out in the game, look at the individual models that are currently available.
Yeah.
Can I just make a suggestion on that? Because I've actually looked into this a little bit. I would go to Claude or whatever, like ChatGPT you use, and I would describe to them exactly what you're trying to do and have a dialogue with it. And it will give you a pretty detailed, come up with a pretty detailed plan for how to implement what you're trying to do with, also talking to it about how you want to approach it, how many images you have, what you're trying to get out of it, etc.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds great. What I want to do is create iterations of my current artwork, which, one drawing may take me days and days to complete. So I want to make iterations of similar styles. But what I'm really interested also is getting them in color, because right now they're all in black and white. It's not that I can't do color on my own. It's that the time it would save me, it's such an incredible tool that I want to utilize it.
I'll weigh in here because I do have friends that have done exactly what you want to do. Kevin Mack has his own Stable Diffusion setup. I've tried to set one up it takes so much work, and it takes over your PC or whatever. It doesn't work as well on a Mac, so you need a pretty powerful graphics PC to do that. And you set up the Stable Diffusion software on your computer, and then you have to, there's thousands of models out there from which you can choose. You can also go to the extent of setting up your own model with your own artwork. It takes quite a bit, so you would have to scan in every one of your images to make that model database for the Stable Diffusion type of thing that you would be putting on your computer. It is such a rabbit hole. I would suggest using some of the, just feeding your images into some of these suggestions that were talked about today. And because once you get into that technical stuff of setting up your computer as an AI model generator, then it does take away from the creative aspects, because now you're working with code and stuff like that. So as someone who's tried it, I would say, unless you really, really want to spend a good, several months of your life setting that up, there are lots of easier ways to do that. I too have a backlog of 1 million pieces that I would love to put in, but I don't have 10 years to scan them all and set up that system. So just my 2 cents there. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I already have my work scanned because I posted on Instagram. So, in my understanding, and I hope I'm not using the word model incorrectly, but like I went, for example, on a couple of platforms, and they have areas where you can create your own model, and it seems like you would input, like, say 25 to 48 images, sometimes more, and it creates the model for you. But that's what I was going to do. I wasn't going to get into coding because that's all way over my head. Although I'm interested in that, but that would be way advanced in the future. Of course, I'm 68, so I don't want to spend too many years. I want to get more productive, which is why I want to use AI as a tool.
I would recommend, like Renata mentioned, how Midjourney has mood boards. That's a really easy, user-friendly way to experiment as a jumping off point. I actually played a little bit with that with a project that I started with an art licensing company. They gave me a bunch of style references. They wanted stuff. I didn't end up doing it just because just wasn't feeling it, but I could, you could feed it a bunch of stuff and it'll generate images based on a prompt and particular set of works. So, you could upload a whole set of works and then give it a prompt and it'll, with some degree of accuracy, come up with an image that's based on that style. So that might be a good place to start experimenting. That's just based on my one experience with that kind of, setup.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try that.
Yeah. One thing I would recommend is that we all be mindful of how we use energy, because AI is very energy intensive. Okay,
Yeah.
those servers are very expensive to run and maintain, and we're running into problems with water usage throughout this country, and the data centers disrupting communities by virtue of their failure to plan in order to conserve our water resources. So, which is one reason why I recommended, that you start with that which already exists, especially if it meets your needs, and then once you push the limits of that and it no longer meets your needs, then you might want to build on top of it, which is what the programs that offer the ability to create your own model. Basically, you're just training the model to recognize the patterns of your work. And the mood board that Colin recommended is a very inexpensive and eco-friendly way to accomplish that goal.
I can speak to that. About 40 miles from my house on the other side of the river in Oregon. There's a town called The Dalles, and it has a Google center there. That center is more energy and more water than the city of The Dalles. And so people are angry.
Oh yeah, and we have to be responsible with this. It's a powerful tool, AI is, but we have to keep in mind that computational complexity has a cost with it, and we should use it responsibly and sparingly, I believe.
Thank you. That's so important to me as a human being, and I'm so glad you brought that up in this discussion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think we're at kind of a closing point. So I want to thank today's presenters, Renata, Colin, and Sahar, and for the good questions. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll leave it to you, Colin, to sign us off.
All right. So yeah, thanks again, Michael, and thanks to all the presenters and everyone watching. And that's about it for you guys who are watching on YouTube. Check us out on techspressionism.com. Shameless plug. Also, we have an Instagram account, which Renata is the curator of. So if you add the hashtag Techspressionism to your Instagram posts, they will be visible in a hashtag search, which is the way that a lot of times we'll find new artists to feature, put on feeds, etc. You could also DM. I hope it's okay to say this, Renata, but you could DM the account if you're interested in having our illustrious curator, check your work out. So it's a very open community, and we urge anyone who's interested to get involved. There's no sort of membership per se. It's just a community effort. So with that, I'm going to stop recording. And as always, there will be an after party, which is basically just a continuation of the Zoom session for anyone that wants to hang out and stick around. It is in lieu of having an advisory board. We have an after party. So if you have the stamina to stick around for a little while, that's where a lot of the decisions get made, specifically about the next salon, usually the topic, and people, can discuss upcoming exhibition opportunities and other things like that. So it's kind of like where a lot of the community building happens. So, all right. So I'm going to stop us recording in 3, 2, 1, and cut.